Hello and good afternoon. Today is a big day. Why is it a big day? Because it's my cover reveal party. I actually can't believe that this day is finally here. It's been 4 long years of writing, preparing. I've had the cover for a few months now and it has taken every bit of my willpower not to share it. I couldn't be more happy and more grateful for it. House of Anansi and their entire creative team did such a great job. It really does encapsulate all of the themes of the book, all of the different topics that I'm touching on. So I just wanted to bring you guys through the party. So I did my makeup. You know, I like to keep it natural. I want to look like me. That's important to me. Yeah, I'm about to get dressed and then we're gonna head to BuzzFeed, which is where it's gonna be. HuffPost is throwing it for me. So let's see, do y'all want to see the fit? Let's go. Okay, we are dressed. We are ready. I got the jewelry my mother made me. Necklace, earrings, matching bracelet. Let's see the fit. So this top is made, it's actually a skirt made from CHYANA Marie Sage. So I'm wearing it as a shirt instead. And a long skirt, boots. We are ready. It is time to call the Uber and go. Oh my God. BuzzFeed. Okay, I got my poster, but my dear friend's cat took a bite out of it. So he wanted to join the party. Therefore, we are here and waiting. I'm in the conference room. Oh, not one of my ribbons getting caught here in the chair. We're in a conference room. We're waiting. It's half an hour too. Feeling excited and all those things. All right, we are beginning. We're getting it all set up. I got my excerpt that we're going to be reading. Got my camera, got the live stream ready. My friend has arrived. Hello. Thank you for coming. Hello. Oh my goodness. You look so pretty. Thank you. Are you vlogging? I'm vlogging. Here's my girl Sabina. All my peeps are here. Okay, HuffPost reading down. Here's the cover. Looking good. Live stream ready.
Oh my God, hi. Say hi. We just want to come here and tell you how proud we are of you. And look at this. How do I zoom? Okay, I can't figure out how to zoom. And look at how nice that cover is.
Let's figure out the zoom.
I can't figure out the zoom.
We'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh. Look at that cover. We are very, very proud of you and we love you so much. And we are excited to pre-order this book. I'm ready to read it. She's ready to read it. He's ready to read it.
My partner's ready to read it.
Period. Hey, everybody. And we're gonna tell all of Ned about your book. Don't worry. I've been handing out your business cards in the drawer. Don't worry. I am your biggest fan. Yippee!
Of her culture as well as an act of resistance. And she's going to tell you a lot more. We're so excited to get started. So excited to welcome CHYANA. I haven't done the mics because I naturally project. I do as well, but let's see if we need one. Hello. Thank you everyone for being here. It is so exciting for me to finally be able to share this cover with everyone. It's been such a work in the making. It's been about 4 years of me working on this book. And I'm so happy that it's like finally come to fruition. Yeah, I'm just really grateful for all of you to be here to support me. You have all been my community in New York City, which I come from Alberta, a long way from home, so it's meant everything to me to be able to build up such a great community here. To get us started, I think I'm just going to do a reading from the book. The book is comprised of 4 parts. 4 is a sacred number in my culture. It represents the 4 different houses of the medicine wheel, and so that was something I really wanted to bring forward in the memoir. For the readings that I'm going to do today, I picked 3 vignettes that I thought are going to speak to most of the themes that are at play in the book. And so, yeah, without further ado, I'll begin. Akusipeyao means it is due, there is due. And what is dew if not something that emerges as a result of intense pressure? It is tiny drops of water that form on cool surfaces at night, when atmospheric vapor condenses at a rate far exceeding evaporation. It leaves its mark, a residue, an imprint of the thing that came before. I used to tell people that my father was dead. That truth was far more digestible, far less tragic, and much more acceptable for people to grasp than my truth. I imagined him as a burial ground, a forgotten one, a covered up one, abandoned, one where someone would have to point out the site and declare, it happened here, if you start digging, you will find the children. Waspuwan is when something lowers, when it is clouded, and my father tended to be just that. Those darkened clouds that move quickly and hover low, so if you reach out your little fingers, you think you can touch them, but you can never really touch them. And don't you know that people are never as simple as the worst things they do? You know, approaching this memoir, when I first approached it, I didn't think I knew that it was going to be a memoir. I sat down and I wanted to begin telling some of my mother's story because it was a quest in many ways. And the question that I held in my mind was, how can something like this happen? Like, my father sexually abused my older sister for many years, and I was forced to keep that a secret. I was forced to watch and all of those things. And as I got older and we were removed from that, I just had this question, how does something like this happen? How does a person do this? And with that question in my mind, I just kind of started writing, and I was almost approaching my own life as a journalist approaches as any story. Yeah. And what does it take to write? It takes courage, it takes honesty, but it takes, I think, like an internal desire to want to change things or make things better somehow, whether that's for you or for somebody else.
Yeah, that's my follow-up. I feel like we hear, you know, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, and I feel like you truly are, because you are able to do some healing and provide some healing through your work. Can you tell me a little bit about what you feel you owe the women in your family and your female ancestors, and how you're paying that forward?
I mean, I feel like I owe them everything, but in a way, I feel like they flow through me every day. So many times when I sat down to write this book, it was like going into a trance, and I didn't even know where the words were coming from sometimes. And you know, I'm very lucky to come from a very strong, like, matriarchal lineage. My mother, my grandmother, was technically my great-grandmother, but all of their lessons have kind of always been with me throughout the very beginning. And even in the book, like, the villain, if you will, in my life, or in this book, was my father. Of course, it's much deeper than that, and I get into that in the book. But the saviors were the women in my life, you know, like watching my mother kind of go head to head with my father to save her children, to save us, to bring us out of it. I will always admire her for that. And even my grandmother providing a safe haven for us after we were taken away and we were on the run from him. You know, it was her hearth, her home, her bed that she welcomed us into. And so I feel like they are very much telling this story with me. And I've felt that the entire time. I felt the love of the women that are still alive, and you know, the love of the women in my life who have passed on, like my Auntie Debbie and my grandmother. Yeah.
That's beautiful. You introduced many of us to some Cree words just now. Can you tell me about what it felt like and what your intention is to perpetuate this language? As we know, there's so many Indigenous languages that are ultimately not being spoken anymore.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like exactly it. It's like preservation, but it's also pride too, because, like, you know, we were forbidden to speak our languages, and so much of this book, like I begin every vignette, every passage with a different Cree word, and I'm not fluent in Cree, and I'm still learning, and this book was a part of that learning, and it's a part of reclaiming, it's a part of celebrating, and there's a lot to celebrate in the language, because Cree and most Indigenous languages, they're very different from any other language. Like, you know, like this tattoo that's on me right here in the Cree syllabics, this says like CHYANA Marie Sage, and that means the ghosts are dancing. And you might think, what the fuck does that mean? You know? But the ghosts are dancing is how we refer to the Northern Lights. And I think it's a beautiful expression of language, but also of the way that we saw the world. And, you know, because we have this belief that the Northern Lights were our ancestors dancing, guiding us home, and we have this origin story in my culture of the origin of the round dance. And it's when the Northern Lights appear to this girl who was kind of struck with grief of losing her mother, and she goes upon this hill and she sees what she thinks is her mother with the Northern Lights. And it's the story of how the round dance comes to the Cree people, which is the dance about processing grief and how to let that go so the spirit can then cross over safely to the other side.
There's so many layers.
There's so many layers, right? And it's just a single word.
Yeah.
It's a single word that means that, all of that. And I think most Indigenous languages are like that, and there's so much to celebrate, and there's so much to learn. And yeah, this book was me trying to celebrate and trying to learn and kind of get into the headspace of my ancestors.
That's so beautiful, and I don't want to make this about me, but I can relate so hard right now. I'm the other kind of Indian, for those who don't know. And I have a Sanskrit word tattooed on me that it means, it's tattvamasi, and it means I am that, but it actually means I'm a divine being having a human experience. So you're like traveling down that hole again of like joy and struggle. It's so important for us to keep those things alive, not just because we can speak the language, but because there are stories, and this is a heavy one that I really need to know. I don't know about you guys, but I've been reading a lot about the Indian boarding schools and the residential schools and all of that stuff, and all the words that like Americans and Canadians use to like disguise how actually horrific it was. And you delve into this a little bit in the memoir. Can you tell me about what it was like to unpack that, the breakdown of the Indigenous family, the Native family?
Yeah, I mean, the quest led me there. You know, when I spoke about the quest, the questions that I had, and I think it was in 2015 or 2016 when I first started college that I learned the word intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
From a theorist, Dory Laub, in relation to like the Holocaust. And reading that, I was like, it was like my entire lineage became so clear. And in the memoir and all of that, and of course this is stuff that like I had already known before like approaching it, but people think that this happened so long ago,
Yeah.
and it really didn't. Like 1996 was the year that the last residential school closed. And so these are not my ancestors who were in there. This is my aunties. This is my uncles. This is my grandparents. These are people who are still alive and who suffered. And so one of the big moments for me, though, in this book, in this quest, in this understanding, because part of what I did in this book was I interviewed different family members as a way of understanding their perspectives, their life histories. And when I interviewed my grandfather, like we were reconnecting for the first time after like 11, 12 years after my father was incarcerated. I remember he called me up and he was like, I think it's time I started telling you about like your grandpa's life. You know, he's getting older and he's in a place where he can share some of this stuff now, but you know, he told me about the day that he was taken away, all of his siblings in the 60s scoop, which is basically what followed the residential school system where Indigenous children weren't put into the schools anymore, but they were placed in white households where they thought like if you take the Indian away from their family, then they will be quote unquote raised like civilized men. In terms of this book, my understanding, my processing, all of it, that conversation I was able to have with my grandfather was a really cathartic and healing experience for the both of us. Like it provided him space to open up, and watching him cry, me cry along with him, but it was also this like healing and tender moment that we were giving to each other. And I mean, yeah, I don't know, what was the rest of the question?
No, that is it. I mean, it's such a give and take, right? It's so healing for both of you. You explained it. I was going to ask you to just explain the concept a little bit, but I think as I'm reading about all of this, and many of us are, we're at a really pivotal time in like non-native people like myself being informed about your cultures. Has anyone seen Reservation Dogs?
Yeah.
Oh my God! If you
All
guys
natives
haven't
in
watched
the room.
yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, it ended last year, 3 seasons. Like probably the best thing I've watched in 5 years, and I watch a fuck ton of TV. Like truly. We are at a pivotal time where we're learning about all this. Do you feel like you wrote this at a pivotal time? Was there any But is there kind of like a shift happening where we're realizing things about your communities?
I mean, it happened, but I think collectively, us Indigenous people were all individually working on these things, not even being aware of what was happening collectively. And so now we're starting to see a lot of it come out, like the celebration of like Indigenous designers, TV shows, like what Sterling Harjo did was incredible. And there's even like a new play that just came out, Distant Thunder, that's going to be launching on October 3rd, and that is essentially Reservation Dogs, but for theater. So it's all Indigenous run. Every single person involved is all Indigenous, and I mean that's like incredible. So it is interesting how all of it is kind of like happening together at the same time. But it's not like I planned for that. It's just part of the movement that we are seeing happen. And it makes me think of the quote by like Louis Riel, who was like Métis pioneer, and he said that it was going to be the artists who gave us our spirits back. And we're really, really seeing that. And now there's like, I mean, it's just like Indigenous thrive, Native thrive, like Native excellence, like all of this is really kind of coming up. And you know, they tried to take the Indian out of the child, but they didn't succeed, you know, because like we're all still here, we're all reclaiming, we're all telling our stories, we're all still dancing, we're all still creating and doing everything that we've been doing since time immemorial.
Can you shout out the designer who did your top?
Oh yeah, so this is designed by CHYANA Marie Sage. It's actually a skirt that I wore as a shirt, but it's a two-piece set that's beautiful. You should check her out. She's an amazing artist. And then the jewelry is, my mother made it all for me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love that. Buffalo Bay Girl beads, that's her.
You heard it here first.
Gotta plug the peeps, you know?
Yes, always. I have one more question for CHYANA, and then I'm going to open it up if anyone wants to ask her something. Thank you for talking about all of this like heavy, really important stuff, but I have a question because this is asking to be adapted into a film. It must. I need to see that movie. Who's going to play you in the film? And who's going to play your love interest? I'm just going to throw that in there. Yeah.
The love interest, who knows?
Okay, we'll see, yeah.
Who knows, TBD. To play me, there's actually like a phenomenal Cree actor who she played Tiger Lily in Peter Pan. Her name is, I think, like Alyssa Wakatana or something like that. I'm not quite sure on the last name. But she's brilliant, and she's like an amazing Cree, and I think it would be really, really cool to have her play me. I think we don't even look that dissimilar either.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I do want to invite anyone to ask a question. Before I forget, I want to say that I left pens and some paper up here. So when when we're all done, it's my request that you guys write CHYANA a note for what you wish for her during this journey. I think healing's a really important theme, and I'm so excited to be with you all and witness this. I'm very honored to be in this space. It's very sacred. So please, like, leave a note for her and just give it to her. You don't have to write, you give it to me and I'll give it to her in case it says I have a crush on you or something like that. Which like is the note I'm gonna write. So what you wish for her during this journey, because this is not gonna be easy. It didn't sound like it was easy, and we're all fucking rooting for you. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions? No, this group is not shy. That's actually impossible.
I know some of y'all, you have some questions.
In your research doing like with the Cree language, did that direct some of your writing in the way that the words are translated? Like you had said, like dew on grass, and it's so specific to a Cree word. So did it lead you in a new way?
Yeah, of course it did. I think do, that word, I think that was one of the first words that I found, and kind of like when I thought about that, like, what is due, like each time I read a word, I kind of analyzed it about its meaning, and then I realized it was kind of like informing a different part of the memoir. And that was actually, it was Cree words that gave me the inspiration for one of the themes that I carried through the book, which is the cycles of water. And so each part of the book represents a different part of the cycle of water, and I relate that to cycles of abuse, but also like what we inherit from who came before. And in the end, no one is just dew, no one is just evaporation, no one is just rain, but rather we all embody that at different moments. And it was absolutely the Cree words that pulled me in that direction to begin with.
What does soft as bones mean?
Ooh, I want to know that too, yeah.
Great question. Yeah, what does soft as bones mean? Soft as bones is one of the phrases that I think came to me from the ancestors. It was one morning shortly before I moved to New York, and I was just having my morning tea, whatever, ruminating on whatever, and from the heavens comes soft as bones, you know? But I sat there and I thought about it, and I wrote a poem about it, and so soft as bones kind of encapsulates this entire philosophy that I have on Indigenous people, but on really all people, if I think about it, because bones are the thing that give us structure. They allow us to stand upright. They are inherently strong, very, very hard, very tough, but they break quite easily, but they also have great capacity for healing. And that's what I believe about us human beings, is that we are equal parts strength, is we are delicate, but great capacity for healing.
That's incredible. I would not be able to articulate that. That's deep. I love that. We have one back here. Oh, yes, whoever wants to go first.
I have two because I was late, so if you ask this first one, I have backup. Who do you hope reads this? You asked that?
No,
Okay.
great question.
Yeah, that is a great
He's
question.
coming for my job. Yeah.
I mean, I wrote it for us Indigenous people. That's who I wrote it for. But the hope is that a lot of white people read it too, and that they can learn and understand, because especially in Canada, you know, there's a lot of work being done, but there's a lot of kind of ignorant rhetoric that goes around, which is like, oh, this happened so long ago, how can it possibly still affect you today? And so this memoir shows how, even though I personally wasn't in the residential school, I personally got to grow up with my family, how that it trickles down and affects. And so I really do hope that a lot of non-Native people read this, and that they can begin to learn a little bit of the history and to understand how this is still affecting us and will continue to affect, because they say it takes 7 generations. It's going to take 7 generations in order for us to fully heal, and I'm only the 3rd generation, you know? And I can still see how it's impacting even my little nieces and nephews with the own mental health struggles that my family is still dealing with from what we went through.
Totally. Did you do the thing where you were like, it's ready? Short story that I wrote.
Yeah. I at that time, like,
I mean, the baby is born. Do I just slice it in half?
Do it.
Yeah, she's going straight for the middle.
Straight for the middle.
Newfangled technique.
What gender is it?
It's androgynous.
All right, I'm gonna cut the rest. Don't do actual labor.
Okay.
Normal. Okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
pass it out.
I'm just gonna cut it up now.
Yeah.
This battery is about to die.
Is it? We out here, we did it! We did the damn thing! No diggity, we gotta bag it up. That's a wrap, motherfuckers. That's a wrap. Here we celebrate you. What's behind me? Is that my